Hello everyone, this is Akira, this is Make Me, and welcome to another class we're doing on this series of like, well, you ask, we answer series, and so we get asked a lot of questions about like how to make noodles, and one of the questions we asked like recently was like, well, can you make noodles that do not use kanji, right? Kanji is something that you need to have like in your noodles to be called ramen, but like can you make it on ramen noodle machine? So, and the answer is like short answer is yes, but like we like to actually show you guys like how we can make it on a ramen machine. And to do this, and we like to answer this in like in kind of detail. So like we want to go through a bit about like kanji, what kanji is, and what kind of things like we need to be concerned about like when we're making noodles that do not use kanji on the ramen noodle machine. So let's get started. And again, like I scribble something on this whiteboard, and like well, I'm just gonna go through this very briefly, and maybe it's gonna make well noodles that do not use kanji or ramen machine. So no kanji noodles, right, made on ramen machine. And so what is kanji, right? What is kanji? And kanji, there are many forms of kanji, and they are used to, well, basically condition the flour, water, to, well, in a way that like, that's, increase the firmness, right? Firmness, and it changes the color, right? And well, there's a flavonoids in contained in the wheat flour, and that that gets reacted like with the kanji, and then the color changes to yellow, and and then it kind of changes the color, well, the smell of the noodles, right? And well, basically that's the work of like potassium carbonate, right? Potassium carbonate, and well, we also use sodium carbonate, right? And the basic type of concept we use is that basically the combination of these two, potassium carbonate, sodium carbonate, and potassium carbonate does all these things, right, to your noodles. And so we blend these two at different ratios for different noodle sizes, basically. And for thinner noodles, we increase the amount of potassium carbonate for to make it hard, and for thicker noodles, because cooking time is longer and the thicker. So if you make it hard, then like that's not going to be good for your the noodle texture. So we increase the amount of sodium carbonate for thicker noodles, right? So that's what basically the kanji is. And then kanji comes in like different forms. And there's a liquid kanji which has like high concentration of like potassium carbonate, and like a powder kanji. In the powder kanji, you can basically or choose from like different types which have like different blending ratios of like potassium carbonate, sodium carbonate, and then some of them have like actually other things that work as of like preservatives, and that like some of them may be like hazardous to human health, but and then as an alternative, right? And then some people like don't like to use this, well, this kanji, right, which is combination of like potassium carbonate, sodium carbonate, as an alternative, right? Some people use the calcinated calcium, and which is basically like made out of like burnt, the like seashells and stuff like that, and but it's not exactly the same. Like if you use this, like you don't get exactly the same kind of quality as you get like using this type of kanji. So it's a trade-off between like you know the flavor and noodle texture, and yeah, all these things that like between using the kanji and or like alternative like calcinated calcium. And so well, when you're not using kanji, right, and you're probably not going to get like these benefits, right? And what we basically use is salt, right? Salt. And um, there are many types of salt, but like we the usually we use the salt with a lot of minerals, Um, and then what salt does, right, is that like it increases the firmness of the noodle texture and by like cutting the gluten and by using salt, right, the dough, like the flour, wheat flour, and then like water, salt helps actually form sort of kind of web-like kind of gluten structure inside the dough, right? And it can regulate the, like enzyme activities, enzyme containing wheat flour that basically uh, what destroys like kind of protein of the flour and which makes the flour, like very soft and like, it kind of helps like lose the firmness of the flour and I mean the protein, right? I'm gonna go like put flour later, but like and it helps like reduce like bacterial growth, right? So that helps the dough kind of will last longer, by reducing the bacterial growth. And it was like wheat flour. Wheat flour, kind of wheat flour we use, and it should have like protein content of like 8% to like 13% for the types of noodles like we want to make on the ramen machine. And so basically, protein it increases the firmness, right, strength of the dough. So basically, the higher the protein, the more stronger the harder the neural texture. And the other thing like we want to look at is like ash content, right? Ash content flour, and we want to have the flour with like around like 0.4% or less, um, but like it's maybe like hard for you guys to find like the flour with the like ash content of like less than 0.4. But basically, the higher the ash, like the darker the actually the amount of minerals like contained in the flour, but like higher the ash content, the color will be like darker. And the other thing that we want to look at is viscosity, right? Viscosity value that's coming from the starch part of the flour, and then that translates into like elasticity and the chewiness of the noodle texture. And lastly, though, like hydration, right? Hydration. So we're talking about like noodles made on the ramen machine. So hydration basically, it's like we can go from like being like lowest being like 25% to maybe like as high as like 40%, right? And so basically, the lower the hydration, like the harder the noodle texture, and higher the softer. So um, yeah, so depending on like what type of noodles you're making, right? Like without using concept, right? Like you have to, understand like hydration, and so salt does these, right? And then the flour, right? And then so if you're making like more thick noodles, if you're making like thin noodles, um, then you choose the hydration and what kind of noodle texture you're looking at. So then you choose the kind of flour with the protein content of like 10%, or it should be like 8%. Then of course like viscosity value is something that you need to actually test it. It doesn't show up on it's not shown on the product label, so you have to actually test the flour on a special device to measure it. So yeah, so you need to actually, you can send you flour. Actually, you should have like some flour you might think like using for your noodles, and then you can send it to us and we can test it for you. But so basically, so the flour, salt, hydration, like in the water. Um, these are the three things that you have to really think about when trying to think about like what kind of noodle you want to make. Like, but you can't use Kansui. Then like yeah, so these are the three. So but today we're making the udon flour. I mean udon noodles, and main udon noodles is something that a lot of our customers like ask us, like customers like using our ramen machines. Ask us like see like okay how can you make udon noodles on the ramen machine? So Yeah, that's what we're gonna show today. And the other thing that you maybe will make, right, is that dumpling skin, like that dumpling skin, like for gyoza, like grilled gyoza, or like the pasta, right? Different types of pasta, and of course, like you made like such pastas like vegan pasta too. And we have a lot of recipes that we've tried before. So for those people who are interested in, please feel free to contact us for these kind of questions. Yeah. Okay, so let's start making udon noodles on the ramen machine. So today we are using this machine that we call Richmond Gold 1. Well, we have Richmond Gold 2 machine. So this is the this is a Type 1, Richmond Gold Type 1 machine. And yeah, basically this is like all in one machine. Every like all the functions that you need to be able to like make fresh noodles from scratch is like packed in this one unit of machine. So yeah, it's got the mixer, and it's 10 kilograms mixer, and it's 10 kilograms mixer, but like so let me just put the udon flour in there, and so she's setting the timer first, right? And then so what she did was like just she put the wheat flour, right? Wheat flour for udon noodles. So like udon noodles usually the protein content is like very, I mean, low. So like 8% to 9%, and um, while it's mixing the flour, right? So she's making the liquid, right? So she added a bit of salt in it. Just put a little salt in it, right? And then so she's adding what she's adding right now is like is vinegar, and vinegar makes the udon dough acid, and so that helps the dough. Like the dough surface is like kind of smoother, and it helps like the dough last longer. And it's got a lot of benefits, like using vinegar, just a little bit of vinegar, not a lot, because we don't want the dough to taste sour. So, but so she added the liquid, right, and then onto the lid, which has like little holes, right? So small holes that allow the liquid to drip through a little by little. So it's the dough is like hydrating, like the flour is hydrating, right? Slowly, gradually, and uh, so Megumi made the dough in advance for this purpose, right? And so she had that dough like in a plastic bag, and it was what we call the resting process. Was in the resting process, like so we let the dough sit at room temperature for an hour or so, right? And then so that the dough gets all the like those rested, like so all the it's degassed and everything, and then it's got like good flavor of like wheat. And so now what we're doing is that like we are feeding this dough right into a set of rollers to make the sheet of dough. So you're going to make like rough sheet of dough, and then yeah, that's what we're doing like in this ramen machine. And So it's now making a sheet, right? Making a sheet, and so so what's amazing about this machine is that like it just feeds the dough automatically, and it's regulating actually the amount of dough, like it's feeding the to the roller at a time. There's a sensor that like and it like well measuring like amount of dough like that's going to the roller, and then well in sync with that like the conveyor like autopilot is like moving, carrying the dough into the roller, so that like it's just right amount of dough is like going in, right? And then so when she put the hand in there, right, and then like it just detects it, and then stops the operation because we the Richmond Gold machine like doesn't want your hand to go into the roller, and then so it's like probably one of the most advanced like safety features that noodle making machine is equipped with. Yeah, so there's like a carbon sensor that's like beam, right? Like you see that the lines, right? And then there's a carbon of like light that's kind of beaming all the time, right? And then if you put in hand in there, like it just detects it, and then well any kind of object this mode, right? So it's it's very safe, and at the same time, like the you can open the gate, and um, it's very easy to make this do this process of like wrap forming. So it's a wrap sheet of dough, right? And then now what we want to do is that like we want to make it stronger or make it more firm, right? We want to make it firmer to by first like separate this dough, right, into two separate sheets. So two separate sheets, right? And then we want to well combine them, right? I want to put them together through the roller, and because like there's no Kansui in the dough, so like the dough is like is still white, right? Like as white as the flour was, right? Okay, so changing the roller gap, and so starting to combine these little sheets into one. So there's a bit of like manual operation, but like the rest is like automatic. So like the other model, like in the Richmond one, yeah, we had to do a lot of things like kind of manually, and well, that you know, well, that may like require like a bit of like practice, right? But like this machine, like you don't have to like just like put someone like new, and then like that someone like can start like making like noodles that are as good as like well a guy like who's been like making noodles like for the past like 3 years can make. So it's very so yeah, so it's like you can put like whoever it is that like you just hire or some like to on this machine to like start making the noodles your noodles like that you been like making for the past like 2 years or something. And so it's yeah, it's like basically this machine like takes out like all the skills needed to make quality noodles. And then it's the probably one of the like safest noodle making machines in the world. And so the was the combining process, and then usually we do like another round of combining process. So like we'll do it, and so the dough is like very clean, smooth, right? So yeah, it's the second combine process, and then so up to this point, like we wanted to combine two separate sheets into one, right? So we want like these two separate sheets of dough to like come together. Like after that, right? After that, like we don't want them to stick together, right? So we are starting to dust, right? Starting to dust the dough to keep it from sticking. Yeah, so the dusting is kind of strange, but like, well, it's done like in the rear of the machine, rear of the machine. So like it's dusting the conveyor, right? Conveyor of the feeding conveyor, right? Feeding conveyor, and so the dough like that touches the feeding conveyor, like gets dusted, and yeah, and then at the same time like it's getting feed, right? And so So we're going to make like kind of thick noodles. So we might thick noodles. So like we're using the like this cutter, like number 8 cutter. So like number 8 cutter is like 3.8 millimeter. It's a it's very thick cutter, and it, so from now on like we'll just thin the dough, thin the dough, right? And we can increase the roll speed, at will. And so basically the thickness, right? Thickness of dough is controlled by the roll gap, right? Roll gap, and then you can go as thin as like gyoza skin, dumpling skin, or something like that, like 0.5 millimeter or something like that. And the width, right? Width of the like noodles is like controlled by the cutter we use, right? So that's also very adjustable. Okay, that's 4 millimeter. The actual thickness is 4 millimeter. After it's going through like 3.5 millimeter. Okay, so we'll start the cut. So this kind of kata we use is this one, like number eight, and like we the shape of this like blades like kind of like very thin, and this gives us the very smooth kind of clean surface the noodles. So the yeah, we use this kind of cutter for especially for udon noodles. The udon noodles like the texture like kind of smooth and clean. It's very sort of yeah, kind of like like kind of high quality some yeah noodle texture stuff. So yeah, and then the other sort of feature that like this machine kind of provides is that like that yeah the the position, right, the position like where you can catch the noodles, like it's kind of set high, right? And well, a lot of our customers are using this machine, like actually put this machine like in front of their store, like where customers can see, right? And then so they're just showing the machine, right, how they make noodles, right? And that's a great feature for your business, and because like people love watching the noodles being made, coming out of the your noodle machine. So yeah, udon noodles, they're very thick, right? But this is the kind of like noodle size that well, I think people who love udon noodles like love, right? Yeah, cooking time is like longer, but like the noodle texture would be like really good. So just cutting and noodles coming out from my bone, and then yeah, the portion size, like portion by portion, right? It's like so there's a portioning cutter inside, and it's like you just portion the noodles out right one by one, and then you can easily you know change the noodle size, like portion size, right? Depending on your business's desire, like yeah, depending on the noodle type as well. Okay, so that's it. Like so, it was pretty fast. Making udon noodles on the Richmond Gold One machine. That was pretty fast. Yeah, and then yeah, like then kind of in a similar process, like you can make like different types of pasta, like the fettuccine, the spaghetti, and well, of course, like some kind of vegan pasta, like without using any kind of eggs, right? And then yeah, like dumpling skin, and like and then we did some kind of Chinese noodles as well, like in the last online event. And so like just possibilities like well limitless, and up to your imagination, right? So yeah, the Richmond Gold machine, like it's more automatic, like it just takes out like all the skills that are needed to make like high quality noodles, the like the craft noodles, and anyone can make great noodles using the Richmond Gold machine. And yeah, so that's what we have for this class. But like, for those of you like who are, have some questions, like, like we're interested in like making craft noodles, but but don't know how, like, or where to start, just feel free to like contact us, and then we love to talk with you guys, and then, answer your questions. So please do that. And if you haven't already, like, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll be, pumping out like this kind of like content, like, like every week. And so, and then, so, see you guys the next class, and thank you very much. Bye bye.